In 2017, one of the internet's most beloved games suddenly disappeared. Club Penguin had over 200 million players, and for millions of kids, it was their entire childhood. But when Disney bought the game, things didn't go the way fans expected. And eventually, the servers were shut down forever. This is the story of the day Disney killed Club Penguin. But to understand why the shutdown shocked so many people, you first have to understand what Club Penguin actually was. For millions of kids growing up in the 2000s, Club Penguin wasn't just a game, it was a world. A snowy island filled with penguins, mini games, secret rooms, and millions of other players all exploring it at the same time. You could decorate your own igloo, adopt pet Puffle, play games in the arcade, or just wander around the island meeting other players. And for many kids logging in after school, it quickly became part of their daily routine. By the late 2000s, the game had exploded in popularity. Millions of players were logging in every single day. And Club Penguin was becoming one of the most successful online games in the world. But that massive success would eventually attract the attention of a company much bigger than the game's creators ever expected: Disney. But Club Penguin didn't start as a massive online world. In fact, it started as a small idea. In the early 2000s, a Canadian developer named Lane Merrifield wanted to create a safe online game where kids could interact with each other. At the time, the internet was full of chat rooms and online games, but very few of them were designed specifically for younger players. So Merrifield and a small team began building something different: a virtual world where players could explore, play games, and talk to each other, all through the simple character of a cartoon penguin. The idea was simple, but when Club Penguin officially launched in 2005, something unexpected happened. Kids everywhere started logging in, and within just a few years, the small experiment had turned into one of the fastest growing online games on the internet. But as the player count kept climbing, the game was starting to attract attention from companies much bigger than its creators ever imagined. And in 2007, one of those companies finally made its move: Disney. The entertainment giant offered to buy Club Penguin for around $350 million. For the small team behind the game, it was a life-changing deal. Overnight, their tiny project had become part of one of the largest entertainment companies in the world. Disney now owned a massive online world filled with millions of young players. And the hope was simple. With Disney's money, technology, and global reach, Club Penguin could grow even bigger than before. New updates, new events, new worlds to explore. For many players, the future of Club Penguin looked brighter than ever. But behind the scenes, things were about to start changing. But those changes didn't happen overnight. At first, most players didn't notice anything different. Club Penguin was still full of events, parties, and updates. New items were added, new mini games appeared, and millions of players were still logging in every single day. But slowly, the game started to feel different. Disney began pushing bigger updates, bigger promotions, and more brand partnerships. Movie tie-ins started appearing across the island. Characters from Disney films began showing up during special events, and the world that once felt like its own unique place was starting to feel more connected to Disney's larger brand. At the same time, the community around the game was changing. Older players were growing up, some stopped logging in, others moved on to new games that were beginning to appear online. And while new players were still joining, the original magic that had made Club Penguin feel so special was slowly fading. The small community-driven world that fans had fallen in love with was beginning to feel more like a corporate product. And as the years passed, more and more players quietly stopped logging in. But by the early 2010s, the internet itself was beginning to change. When Club Penguin first launched, online games like it were still something new. Kids logged in from family computers, they explored virtual worlds after school, and for years, Club Penguin had been one of the biggest places to do that. But as technology evolved, so did the way people played games. Smartphones were becoming more common, mobile games were exploding in popularity, and younger players were starting to spend more time on tablets and phones instead of sitting at a computer. For Club Penguin, that shift was a serious problem. The game had been built for desktop browsers. Its world, its mini games, and its social features were all designed around that experience. But now the audience was moving somewhere else. At the same time, competition was growing rapidly. New online games were appearing everywhere. Some were faster, some were simpler, and many of them were designed specifically for mobile devices. For younger players discovering online games for the first time, Club Penguin no longer felt like the newest or most exciting place to be. Disney could see this happening. The number of players logging in each day was slowly declining, and the company began looking for a way to reinvent the game for a new generation. Instead of continuing to expand the original world, Disney started working on something completely different, a brand new version of Club Penguin, one designed specifically for mobile devices. The idea was to shut down the original game and replace it with a modern reboot, a fresh start that could bring the franchise back to life. But for the millions of players who had grown up exploring the snowy island, that plan sounded less like a new beginning and more like the end of the world they had spent years in. Because if Disney moved forward with this new version, the original Club Penguin would have to disappear. And after more than a decade online, that moment was finally approaching. And then the announcement finally came. In early 2017, Disney revealed that the original version of Club Penguin would be shutting down. After more than a decade online, the snowy island that millions of players had grown up exploring was coming to an end. Instead, Disney planned to replace it with a completely new game called Club Penguin Island, a modern reboot built specifically for mobile devices. From Disney's perspective, the decision made sense. The internet had changed, gaming had changed, and the company believed the only way for the franchise to survive was to rebuild it for a new generation of players. But for the people who had grown up with the original game, the announcement felt like a shock. For years, Club Penguin had been more than just another online world. It had been part of daily life, a place where friends met after school, a place where players decorated igloos, adopted puffles, and explored the island together. And now that world had an expiration date. Players suddenly realized that every login, every party, every minigame was part of the final chapter. The developers announced one last event for the game, a final celebration before the servers would shut down forever. In the weeks leading up to the shutdown, millions of players returned to the island one last time. Old players logged back in after years away. Some wanted to relive their childhood memories, others simply wanted to say goodbye. The island was crowded again. Penguins filled the town, friends gathered in familiar places, igloos were opened for one last visit. For a brief moment, it almost felt like the early days of the game had returned. But this time, everyone knew it wouldn't last, because once the servers went offline, the world of Club Penguin would disappear forever. And finally, the day arrived, March 29th, 2017. After more than a decade online, the original Club Penguin servers were about to shut down forever. For players around the world, the final hours of the game felt surreal. Thousands of penguins gathered across the island. Some stood in the town square, others explored their favorite locations one last time. Friends met up to take screenshots together. Igloos were opened so players could visit them before everything disappeared. The island that had once felt endless was now counting down its final moments. And as the clock ticked closer to shutdown, players began filling the chat with messages. Some said goodbye, some shared memories, others simply typed one final waddle on. Then suddenly, the servers went offline. After 12 years online, the world of Club Penguin was gone. For many players, the shutdown felt like the end of a small part of their childhood. The snowy island that once been full of life was now just a memory. Disney would go on to release Club Penguin Island shortly after, but the reboot never captured the same magic. It shut down just 2 years later. Yet even after the official game disappeared, the legacy of Club Penguin didn't. Fans created private servers to keep the world alive. Communities formed online to share memories of the game. And years later, millions of players still remember the same snowy island, the same penguins, the same world they once logged into after school. Because for an entire generation of kids, Club Penguin wasn't just a game, it was a place. And even though the servers are gone, the memories of that world are still alive. The day Disney killed Club Penguin.